After a long separation, you might think a narcissist has moved on completely. They may look happy on the outside, flaunting new relationships or pretending you never mattered, but the truth is different. Inside their mind, you still take up space. They replay memories, rehearse conversations, and wonder what you're doing now. Narcissists don't let go easily. Even if years pass, they secretly think about you far more than they'll ever admit. The first thing they secretly think is whether you still miss them. Narcissists crave importance, and the idea that you've erased them is unbearable. They wonder if you lie awake at night replaying old moments, or if you scroll through past messages. To them, being unforgettable is proof of power, so they cling to the belief that you still think of them, even when silence tells a different story. Your indifference haunts them more than hate ever could. They also secretly wonder if you regret leaving. Narcissists twist the story so they are always the prize. In their minds, walking away from them is the worst mistake anyone could make. They imagine you longing for their return, regretting your decision. This thought comforts them, even if reality shows you've grown stronger without them. Their ego depends on believing they are irreplaceable, so regret becomes the fantasy they replay again and again. Another hidden thought is jealousy over your healing. If they see you thriving, smiling, or building a new life, it unsettles them. They expected you broken and dependent, not strong and independent. Your growth is a reminder of their failure. Instead of celebrating your progress, they stew in bitterness. Secretly, they think, how can they be happy without me? That question gnaws at them, because it proves their control was never as strong as they imagined. Narcissists also wonder if you talk about them. They secretly hope their name still lingers in your conversations, whether with friends, family, or new partners. To them, even negative attention is proof of importance. Silence, however, terrifies them. If you've stopped mentioning them entirely, it means they've lost relevance. This thought eats at their pride. They crave to be remembered, even as a villain, because being forgotten is the one fate they can't accept. They secretly think about whether someone else has replaced them. The idea of you finding happiness with another person feels unbearable. They may convince themselves your new partner is inferior, or that no one could possibly match what they offered. But beneath the arrogance lies fear. Fear of being replaced. This insecurity drives them to compare themselves constantly. Even if they've moved on outwardly, inside they wonder, am I truly forgotten, or did they find better? Another secret thought is about control. Narcissists wonder if they could still manipulate you if they returned. They replay scenarios imagining whether you'd forgive, whether you'd give another chance. They crave reassurance that their old tricks would still work. This isn't about love, it's about power. They don't wonder if you're happier. They wonder if you're still vulnerable. The thought that you might resist them now is both frightening and enraging. They secretly fantasize about reconciliation, even if they've discarded you in the past. The idea of returning lingers. In their minds, you're always part of their orbit, no matter how far you've flown. They imagine dramatic reunions where you apologize, forgive, and embrace them. These fantasies soothe their ego. They don't reflect on the harm they caused. They imagine a script where they're adored again. Fantasy becomes their refuge from the reality of your absence. They also secretly think about punishing you. If they sense you're happy, they may imagine ways to disrupt it. Whether through rumors, subtle sabotage, or sudden reappearances, they crave ways to remind you of their presence. To the narcissist, your happiness feels like betrayal. They secretly think you shouldn't be allowed to thrive without them. These thoughts aren't about closure. They're about revenge. Even in silence, they scheme ways to reassert dominance. Another hidden thought is denial. They secretly tell themselves you still care, even if all evidence says otherwise. Silence becomes longing. Independence becomes pretense. In their minds, your growth is just a mask. They convince themselves you can't possibly be free of them. This denial soothes their ego, but it's fragile. Deep down, they know the truth, that you've moved forward. And that truth, though denied, lurks like a shadow in their thoughts. They secretly think about your forgiveness. Deep inside, they wonder, Would they still forgive me if I reached out? Narcissists depend on forgiveness to keep the cycle alive. They imagine you still soft-hearted, willing to give them another chance. This thought comforts them, but it also scares them, because if forgiveness is gone, their power vanishes. The uncertainty leaves them restless, wondering whether the door is truly shut forever. They also secretly think about your weaknesses. They remember the times you tolerated their behavior, the places where you bent instead of breaking. In their minds, those weaknesses are still there, waiting to be used. They don't think of them as lessons you've grown from, but as cracks in the wall they can exploit if they return. This thought keeps them believing they still hold a key, even when the lock has already been changed. Narcissists secretly think about being exposed. They fear you've told others the truth about them, the manipulation, the lies, the abuse. Their carefully crafted image is fragile, and the thought of you tearing it down terrifies them. To protect themselves, they may even smear your name first, just in case. This fear lingers constantly. They can't fully relax because they never know when or how the truth about them might surface. They secretly think about revenge through success. If they can't control you directly, they imagine flaunting their own achievements in your face. They want you to see them winning, even if it's exaggerated or fake. This fantasy keeps their ego alive. They don't aim for real growth. They aim for appearances. In their minds, success is only meaningful if it provokes jealousy. The thought that you might not care at all enrages them even more. Another secret thought is obsession with comparison. They constantly compare their new life to yours. Are you happier, more successful, better loved? This comparison eats at them. Even if they look satisfied on the outside, they secretly scroll, stalk, and measure. Every sign of your progress feels like defeat. They can't stop thinking about where they stand in relation to you. It's less about love, more about competition. To them, you remain the standard. They secretly think about rewriting history. In their minds, they were the victim, not the abuser. They paint themselves as misunderstood. And you as ungrateful? This narrative soothes their pride, but it's dishonest. Still, they cling to it, telling themselves a story where they were always the good one. These mental rewrites keep them from facing shame. Yet, no matter how many times they edit the past, the truth still lingers beneath the surface. Narcissists secretly think about whether you stalk them. They imagine you checking their profiles, asking about them, or secretly longing to know what they're doing. Even if you've moved on, they convince themselves you're watching. This thought gives them comfort, even when it's false. They need to feel unforgettable. So they secretly believe your silence is curiosity. The idea that you've truly stopped caring is too painful for them to accept. They also secretly think about timing. They calculate the right moment to reappear, whether during holidays, milestones, or difficult times. In their minds, they're always planning the perfect comeback. This thought isn't about love. It's about strategy. They want to strike when you're most vulnerable, to maximize their chances of regaining control. Even after years apart, their thoughts are still tactical. They can't let go, because they're always plotting their return. Another secret thought is envy of your independence. They see you making choices, living freely, and they feel unsettled. Independence is what they feared most, because it means they're no longer needed. They secretly think, how dare they live so well without me? Your ability to stand alone proves their influence was weaker than they believed. That realization haunts them, even if they never admit it out loud. They secretly think about the possibility of replacement. If someone else now stands beside you, it stings their ego. They wonder if this new person is kinder, stronger, or more loving than they ever were. They may convince themselves the new relationship won't last, but the thought lingers. What if they found real happiness? This possibility gnaws at them, because it proves they weren't the ultimate source of love they believed themselves to be. They secretly think about your strength. The longer you stay away, the more they realize you're not coming back. This strength unsettles them. They expected weakness, begging, or longing. Instead, they see resilience. They secretly think, how did they get so strong without me? This question both fascinates and terrifies them, because your strength proves their illusion of control was never as solid as they imagined. They secretly think about ways to test your boundaries. If they were to reach out, would you respond? Would you block them? Would you let them in, even just a little? These questions replay in their mind, fueling their fantasies of control. They want to know if the door is truly locked to them. Testing your boundaries feels like a game, but to you it's proof that they can't let go, no matter how long it's been. They secretly think about the what ifs. What if they had treated you better? What if they had changed? What if they hadn't lost you? These thoughts creep in during quiet moments. They don't dwell on them with regret, but with frustration. They imagine alternate timelines where you're still by their side. These what ifs aren't about love. They're about control and image. Still, they reveal the truth. Even now, you live rent-free in their mind. They secretly think about proving you wrong. If you left saying you'd never return, they secretly dream of a comeback that proves otherwise. They want to show that you were mistaken, that they're irresistible, unforgettable. This thought fuels many of their attempts to resurface. They crave the satisfaction of proving you wrong, even if it means dragging you back into the cycle. To them, this imagined victory is proof they still matter. They secretly think about your scars. They wonder if their words still echo in your mind, if their actions still haunt you. This thought comforts them, because it means they still have influence. Even your pain becomes proof of their power. They don't consider the healing that's taken place. They focus on the wounds they caused. Secretly, they hope those wounds remain open. To them, your suffering is a reminder that they once controlled your world. They secretly think about your silence as strategy. Instead of seeing it as peace, they assume you're plotting. In their minds, silence must mean you're waiting for the perfect moment to strike back. This paranoia reveals their own projection. Because they use silence as a weapon, they assume you must too. The idea that you're simply living happily without them is incomprehensible. So they secretly believe your silence is not peace, but preparation. They secretly think about their image in your eyes. Do you still admire them? Do you still see them as charming or successful? Or have you seen through it all? This question unsettles them, because their self-worth depends on how others view them. If you no longer see them as special, it threatens their ego. They secretly fear that, in your eyes, they are just ordinary. And to a narcissist, being ordinary is the cruelest fate of all. They secretly think about reappearing in dramatic ways. A sudden message, a surprise visit, an unexpected phone call. They imagine shocking you into remembering them. These thoughts aren't about reconnection, they're about impact. They want to shake your world again, even for a moment. To them, drama equals importance. If they can disrupt your peace, they feel alive. Secretly, they dream of moments where their return steals your attention once more. They secretly think about whether you've forgiven them. Not because they care about your peace, but because forgiveness means access. If you've forgiven, they assume you'll eventually allow them back. This thought comforts them. But if forgiveness hasn't come, it unsettles them deeply. Forgiveness to a narcissist isn't closure, it's opportunity. And they secretly think about it often, hoping your heart still carries softness they can use. They secretly think about losing permanently. This thought terrifies them most. The idea that you've closed the door forever, that you've built a new life where they have no place, shakes their ego. They may hide it with arrogance, but deep inside, this fear lingers. They can't fully accept permanent loss because it means they failed. So even after years, they secretly think about you, proving one truth: they can't let go no matter how hard they try. They secretly think about unfinished business. Narcissists don't like endings unless they're the ones who control them. If you left, they replay the separation as incomplete. They think of conversations never had, power plays never finished. This sense of unfinished business keeps them mentally tied to you. Even if you found closure, they haven't. For them, closure is not peace, it's control. And without it, they obsess, unable to accept that the chapter is over. They secretly think about sabotaging your peace. In their mind, if they can't have control, no one can. They may fantasize about ways to stir chaos, spreading rumors, resurfacing at the worst moment, or reminding mutual friends of their version of events. These thoughts don't always turn into action, but they reveal the depth of their inability to let go. To a narcissist, your peace feels like betrayal, and they secretly think of ways to shatter it. They secretly think about whether you pity them. This thought haunts them because pity is not admiration. If you see them as weak, desperate, or broken, it damages their ego. They crave superiority, but the idea that you might look down on them is intolerable. So they build stories in their head where you still admire them, even if reality says otherwise. Deep down, they fear pity more than hatred, because it makes them feel small. They secretly think about their influence over your story. Do you still define parts of your life by what they did? Do you still tell friends about the pain they caused? To them, this equals relevance. Even if you speak badly of them, they secretly believe they matter because their name is still part of your story. They don't care if it's love or hate. What terrifies them is indifference, the idea that they've been erased from your narrative. They secretly think about whether you've truly healed. Healing means freedom, and freedom means their grip is gone. This thought unsettles them. They hope your scars remain open, that you still feel the sting of their words or actions. In their mind, healing diminishes their power, so they secretly hope you're still hurting, still vulnerable. But every sign of your strength, every smile, every step forward, reminds them that their control is slipping away for good. They secretly think about rewriting the future. In their mind, you're not really gone, you're just temporarily distant. They imagine future scenarios where you return, where the bond is rekindled, where their fantasy of control is restored. These thoughts give them hope, even when reality doesn't match. They can't fully imagine a life where you're gone forever. So they cling to a false future, secretly believing that somehow, someday you'll circle back to them. They secretly think about testing your silence. Even after years, they may draft messages they never send, or rehearse phone calls in their head. They wonder what would happen if they reached out. Would you respond, or would you block them? The uncertainty eats at them. They can't stand not knowing, so they play out these imaginary tests, secretly desperate for proof that they still matter. Even in silence, you haunt their every calculation. They secretly think about their own loneliness. Though they may surround themselves with people, their thoughts return to you. Loneliness creeps in at night, reminding them of what they lost. But instead of facing it with humility, they twist it into blame. They tell themselves you caused their emptiness rather than their own behavior. Secretly, they know their loneliness is self-made, but accepting that truth is too painful, so they project it back onto you. They secretly think about competition with your happiness. Every time they hear of your progress, it fuels a silent rivalry. Did you buy a home? They want a bigger one. Did you find love? They flaunt their relationships. It's not genuine joy, it's competition. Secretly, they think they must always appear above you. This obsession proves you're still in their head, still their point of reference. They can't let go, because they've made your life the scoreboard. They secretly think about whether you would recognize their mask today. Over time, narcissists often reinvent themselves, creating new versions of their image. They secretly wonder if you'd see through it again, or if this time you'd be fooled. This thought reveals their insecurity. They know their charm has limits. Deep down, they fear you've grown too wise to ever fall again. And that wisdom is the one thing they can never control. They secretly think about your independence as a threat. The more they see you living freely, the more powerless they feel. Independence means they no longer have leverage. This realization gnaws at them, even if they never admit it. They secretly think, how dare they live so fully without me? Your independence is their nightmare. It's proof that the cycle is broken. And once broken, it cannot be repaired, no matter how hard they try. They secretly think about reclaiming significance through drama. If they can't win your love, They'll settle for provoking anger. They dream of reappearing in ways that spark chaos, anything to prove they still matter. This thought reveals their desperation. To them, irrelevance is death. So they cling to the belief that any reaction, even negative, is better than silence. Secretly, they would rather be hated than forgotten, because hatred at least means attention. They secretly think about your compassion. Even after all the harm, they wonder if a part of you still cares. They secretly hope your empathy hasn't hardened, that you'd still feel sorry for them if they returned in tears. This thought keeps them hopeful, because compassion was always their entry point. But it also terrifies them, because if your compassion is turned into boundaries, then their last weapon is gone. That possibility haunts them constantly. They secretly think about whether they've left a permanent mark. Did they shape how you see love? Did they change the way you trust? This thought comforts them, because they want to believe they're unforgettable. To them, even damage is proof of importance. But deep inside, they fear the opposite, that you've healed, that you've grown stronger, that their influence has faded. They secretly crave significance, but your healing threatens to erase their legacy. They secretly think about your new boundaries. If they reached out, would you shut them down? Would you stand firm? This uncertainty keeps them restless. They test scenarios in their head. Unsure whether the old patterns would still work, boundaries terrify them, because they strip away control. They secretly think, what if I can't get through anymore? That thought shakes their ego, because without access, they lose the game entirely. They secretly think about rejection as the ultimate cruelty. To them, nothing hurts more than you saying no. The idea that you'd reject them after all the cycles you endured feels like betrayal. They secretly fear your strength, because it means you can deny them. And denial is unbearable for someone who believes they're entitled to access. Rejection, in their mind, is cruelty, and that cruelty keeps them obsessing over you long after separation. They secretly think about whether they underestimated you. They remember the times they dismissed your strength, thinking you'd never leave. But now, after separation, they secretly wonder if they misjudged you all along. This thought bruises their pride. They thrive on underestimating others. But your resilience proved them wrong. Secretly, they think, maybe they were stronger than I ever realized. And that realization is one they can never fully escape. They secretly think about trying again, even if they know they'll fail. Narcissists believe in cycles. They always expect another chance. So they replay ways to return, even after years. This thought lingers, because it feeds their ego. They can't accept the finality of loss. Secretly, they plan, they imagine, they hope, but deep down, they know the truth. You've outgrown them. And that truth makes their secret thoughts even darker and more desperate. They secretly think about the day you no longer cross their mind. This terrifies them, because they fear irrelevance above all else. If they stop thinking of you, it means their ego has nothing to cling to. So instead, they obsess. They keep you alive in their mind, even when it hurts. Secretly, they can't let go, because letting go means they were never as important as they believed. That truth is unbearable, so they cling tightly to illusion. In the end, narcissists secretly think about you, because they can't let go. You represent control lost, power broken, and ego wounded. Their thoughts circle endlessly around regret, jealousy, denial, and fantasies of return. But while they remain trapped in obsession, you move forward. Their secret thoughts reveal the truth. You won by choosing freedom, and that freedom is the one thing they can never take back. To them, it feels cruel. To you, it feels like peace.